I was engaged to Nathan Carter for 3 years, but he always found excuses to delay our wedding. Then, he fell in love at first sight with Emily, his ambitious young assistant, and openly pursued her right in front of me. This time, I didn't beg. I didn't wait silently like I used to, hoping he'd realize his mistake and come back. Instead, I threw away our photographs, sold the wedding dress I had secretly purchased, and on the night of his company's anniversary celebration, I left the city without a word. Minutes before my plane took off, Nathan sent me a frantic text, "Sophia, where are you? Everyone's asking about you." A faint smile touched my lips. Without replying, I blocked him on every platform. What Nathan didn't know was that just days ago, I'd accepted the proposal of Ryan Anderson, his biggest rival and the man Nathan hated most. The moment my plane landed in the new city, my new life would begin. And once I took Ryan's hand, I would become Nathan's worst nightmare. I had been engaged to Nathan Carter for 3 years, but he still refused to set a wedding date, always claiming his career had to come first. Every time he postponed, I smiled patiently, hid my disappointment, and quietly supported his ambitions from the shadows, believing that one day he'd finally prioritize us. I silently endured the whispers of friends and family who wondered aloud if Nathan ever truly planned to marry me. But deep down, I trusted him completely, maybe too much. After all, I was emotionally invested, loyal, and hopeful, still believing he would eventually realize I had always been right there, patiently waiting. Then Nathan hired Emily Brooks as his new assistant. From the very first moment she stepped into his office, he couldn't take his eyes off her. She was young, ambitious, and charming, the kind of woman who effortlessly captured his attention. Gradually, Nathan began canceling our dates, returning home late every night, always claiming work was keeping him busy. Yet, I noticed how his mood brightened whenever Emily's name appeared on his phone, and how his eyes lit up when she walked into the room. Slowly but surely, he started neglecting me, treating me like I was invisible, even when I stood right beside him. Then, one evening, the truth finally shattered my world. Nathan's affair with Emily came to light when a mutual friend sent me photos of them passionately embracing outside a hotel. My heart sank, yet somehow, I couldn't confront him. I quietly deleted the pictures, pretending nothing had happened, desperately hoping it was just a mistake, a brief lapse in judgment. Maybe he'd realize how deeply he was hurting me and come back. For weeks, I endured silently, smiling at dinners, laughing at his jokes, waiting patiently for Nathan to remember his promises and return to the man I had fallen in love with. Then came the night of Nathan's company's grand annual gala, the most prestigious corporate event of the year. Usually, it was the night I looked forward to most, a night when Nathan proudly introduced me to his business partners and friends, making me feel cherished and important. But this time, everything felt different, colder somehow. As I stood in front of the mirror, carefully putting on the elegant champagne-colored gown Nathan had once chosen for me himself, I couldn't help noticing how pale and frail my reflection had become. It was as if, in waiting patiently for Nathan, I had slowly started losing myself. "Sophia, are you ready yet?" Nathan's voice drifted into the room, distant and impatient. "Yes, coming," I replied softly, adjusting my necklace one last time before stepping out. When I entered the living room, Nathan didn't even glance up from his phone, his expression engrossed. My heart sank, but I forced a gentle smile. "How do I look?" He glanced briefly, indifferent. "Fine. Let's go, we're already late." The drive to the gala was quiet, suffocatingly so. I wanted to say something, anything to bridge the growing gap between us, but Nathan seemed completely lost in thought, his eyes distant, his mind clearly elsewhere. Every mile felt heavier, pressing my heart deeper into sadness. When we finally arrived, the grand hall was already buzzing with activity. Elegant men and women dressed in designer outfits filled the room, laughter and conversation swirling all around us. Nathan stepped out of the car first and immediately walked ahead without waiting for me. Hurt flashed through me, but I swallowed it down and quickly followed, clutching my purse nervously. Inside the gala, Nathan immediately vanished into a crowd of associates, leaving me awkwardly standing by the entrance alone. Embarrassed and unsure, I took a few hesitant steps toward him, only to stop dead in my tracks when I saw Emily approach him from across the hall. Her radiant smile shone brightly, her perfectly tailored black dress clinging to her figure elegantly. My heart tightened painfully as Nathan's eyes lit up, his lips curving into a warm, genuine smile I hadn't seen in months. He reached out, gently placing his hand at the small of her back, guiding her smoothly into a circle of important clients. I felt invisible, standing there watching the man I loved openly shower affection upon another woman. Humiliation burned across my cheeks as curious glances and whispered remarks began spreading through the crowd. My eyes stung with unshed tears, but pride forced me to hold them back. "Don't cry, Sophia," I whispered to myself, my nails digging into my palm. "Don't let them see." After a long moment, Nathan stepped onto the stage, the spotlights illuminating his confident, handsome features. He cleared his throat, and the room quieted, all attention turning toward him. "Thank you all for joining us tonight. This year has brought great success, and I owe much of that to a very special person. I'd like to formally introduce my new partner, Emily Brooks. Emily, please join me." My breath caught painfully. Around me, murmurs erupted as every pair of eyes moved in my direction. My cheeks burned fiercely, embarrassment overwhelming me. Emily gracefully ascended the stage, standing proudly beside Nathan, who placed an affectionate arm around her waist. Cameras flashed, capturing every humiliating second. Feeling nauseous, I turned swiftly, stumbling through the crowd, desperate to escape. Tears blurred my vision, making it impossible to see clearly. I heard whispers, felt eyes following me as I fled. Outside, the crisp night air bit into my skin, and I finally allowed myself to crumble, sinking onto a bench, sobbing quietly. It felt like an eternity before gentle footsteps approached. I quickly wiped my eyes, struggling to compose myself, when a familiar, comforting voice broke the silence. "Sophia? Is that you?" My head shot up, startled, to meet the gentle, concerned gaze of Ryan Anderson, Nathan's greatest business rival and, coincidentally, my old friend from college. Ryan had always been kind, thoughtful, and warm, qualities Nathan often criticized as weaknesses. Yet, at this moment, Ryan's kindness was exactly what I needed. "Ryan," my voice broke slightly as fresh tears welled up. Without another word, he gently sat beside me, removing his tuxedo jacket and carefully draping it around my shaking shoulders. "I'm here if you need to talk, Sophia." For a long time, I just cried, unable to speak. Ryan patiently waited, not rushing or pressuring me, offering silent, steady support. Eventually, my sobs slowed, and with a shaky breath, I began telling him everything: Nathan's betrayal, the humiliation I just suffered, and my lingering confusion and heartache. Ryan listened intently, his eyes filled with empathy. When I finally finished, his voice was soft yet resolute. "Sophia, you deserve so much better than this. Nathan doesn't know what he's lost." His words resonated deeply, igniting a spark of courage within me. For the first time in months, I felt genuinely understood, cared for. Ryan offered his hand. "Let me take you home." I accepted silently, comforted by his steady presence. As Ryan drove me away from the gala, I glanced back at the brightly lit building, realizing I was leaving behind more than just Nathan. I was leaving behind the woman who had allowed herself to be treated this way. Days turned into weeks, and Ryan continued checking in on me, quietly supporting my emotional recovery. Gradually, our friendship blossomed anew, deeper and more meaningful. His care was genuine, gentle, and steady, so different from the roller coaster of emotions Nathan had put me through. One evening, as we sat together overlooking the city's skyline, Ryan took a deep breath and turned to face me fully, his expression earnest. "Sophia, I've loved you since our college days, but back then, you chose Nathan, and I respected that decision. Now, after seeing what you've endured, I can't hide how I feel anymore. Will you allow me the honor of being by your side, not just as your friend, but as the man who truly loves and cherishes you?" My heart trembled violently at his heartfelt confession. Warm tears slid down my cheeks, but this time they were tears of joy, relief, and gratitude. Without hesitation, I nodded gently. "Yes, Ryan. I want to be with you." Ryan's smile was radiant, his eyes filled with unfiltered happiness as he pulled me into his arms, holding me securely. In his embrace, I felt safe, protected, cherished, all things I desperately longed for but never truly found with Nathan. The news spread quickly, eventually reaching Nathan. Initially, he dismissed it with cold indifference, shrugging off questions with arrogant nonchalance. But soon after, mutual friends started whispering how happy Ryan and I looked together, how genuinely in love we appeared, and something within Nathan began shifting. One night, Nathan unexpectedly appeared at my doorstep, his face pale, eyes shadowed with frustration and possessiveness. "Sophia, this relationship with Ryan, it's just to make me jealous, right? You can't possibly love him." I looked at Nathan, seeing clearly for the first time how deeply narcissistic he had become. Calmly, I shook my head. "Nathan, what I have with Ryan is genuine, something you and I never truly had." Nathan's eyes widened with disbelief. "You loved me, Sophia, you waited 3 years. You can't just stop loving someone." "I did love you," I replied softly, firmly holding his gaze, "but you broke that love piece by piece. Ryan showed me what real love feels like, stable, sincere, respectful. What we had wasn't love, Nathan. It was emotional manipulation." Stung, Nathan stumbled back, disbelief etched onto his handsome features. I closed the door firmly, symbolically shutting out my past. From that moment, Nathan's jealousy turned obsessive, consuming him completely. Every new success Ryan and I shared became a thorn piercing Nathan's pride. His career began faltering as his focus drifted, driven more by bitterness toward Ryan and regret over losing me than actual ambition or clarity. Soon after, rumors spread of mismanagement and instability within Nathan's company, largely due to Emily's careless oversight. Eventually, his clients started turning to Ryan's more stable enterprise instead. Within months, Nathan's reputation crumbled. Throughout it all, I stood by Ryan's side, our bond strengthening further. Our engagement was announced publicly, receiving widespread celebration. Every success of ours deepened Nathan's humiliation, serving as a constant reminder of the happiness and stability he had recklessly abandoned. At our engagement celebration, surrounded by friends, Ryan took my hand and smiled warmly. "Sophia, my only regret is not confessing sooner. But from this day onward, I promise you'll always know exactly how deeply you're loved." Tears shimmered in my eyes as applause filled the room. As we kissed tenderly, sealing our commitment, I knew Nathan was somewhere watching, drowning in regret, finally feeling the weight of everything he'd lost through his selfishness. His career destroyed, his relationship with Emily shattered, Nathan was left alone, a victim of his own arrogance. But now, wrapped securely in Ryan's arms, I no longer felt anything for Nathan, not anger, not sadness, not even pity. The only emotion left was gratitude for the betrayal that finally pushed me to find true love and genuine happiness. Nathan's downfall was poetic justice, swift and merciless. He had gambled love for ambition and lost both. As for me, standing proudly beside Ryan, my heart finally felt whole again, ready for whatever the future held, confident that the love we'd built together was genuine, unbreakable, and everlasting. And I moved into a newly built penthouse overlooking the city skyline, a place we designed together from the ground up. But more than the marble floors, the floor-to-ceiling windows, or the curated art pieces, it was the energy in that space that mattered most to me. It was mine. Ours. There were no memories of betrayal in its corners, no shadows of the past whispering in its halls. It was a home filled with new laughter, fresh hopes, and a peace I had never truly known before. And on the wide wraparound balcony, Ryan had planted a small garden of white gardenias and blood-red dahlias. But tucked in one corner, beneath the sunniest window, he had surprised me with something deeply personal, a single sapling of a crabapple tree. "You once told me these were your mother's favorites," he said, kneeling in the soil with his sleeves rolled up, the early morning sun catching in his hair. "Now they'll bloom in your home. In your life." Tears sprang to my eyes. This small act, quiet, thoughtful, permanent, meant more to me than any diamond ring ever could. While our personal life blossomed, so did Ryan's business, and for the first time, I became a part of it. At first, I only helped with occasional branding ideas, social media campaigns, and PR strategy. But slowly, steadily, I stepped fully into the corporate world that Nathan once claimed I was too soft for. They were wrong, he was wrong. In less than 6 months, Ryan made me head of brand strategy, and I restructured his digital ecosystem completely. I used everything I had learned from watching Nathan's world up close, every flaw, every blind spot, every crack Emily never noticed. And as Ryan's company soared, securing 3 major accounts Nathan's firm had courted for years, I didn't gloat. I didn't mock. I simply did what Nathan never expected. I outgrew him. But of course, the fall never goes unnoticed when it's someone like Nathan Carter. His company had started showing signs of internal instability even before Ryan and I launched our new campaigns. But the cracks deepened rapidly. Emily, once confident and calculating, found herself overextended. Her flashy ideas lacked strategy. She botched $1 million investor pitch. She let interns handle client reports. She burned through the marketing budget trying to replicate my brand initiatives from the outside without knowing the logic behind them. And Nathan? He had grown irritable, paranoid, distracted. He spent more time watching our press releases than managing his crumbling team. One afternoon, I received a polite email from a former assistant at Carter Corp, anonymously warning us that Nathan had launched an internal probe to find moles. It would have been laughable if it weren't so sad. Nathan had built his empire on ego and the illusion of loyalty, but loyalty, I had learned, is earned, not demanded. The final blow came quietly. A long-standing partner, Avalon Holdings, publicly announced they were switching to Anderson Strategic. It was a $1 billion account. Ryan and I had prepared that pitch together over candlelight and late-night espresso. And when the news broke, I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't celebrate. I just felt done. Across town, Nathan watched his empire collapse under the weight of its own arrogance. I heard from a mutual friend that he fired Emily that same week. She had apparently fought him in the boardroom, screaming that everything she had done was for him, for them. But Nathan, humiliated and spiraling, turned on her. "You were never Susie," he reportedly said. "You just wore her skin." Her apartment was cleared out within days. Rumor had it she left the city. One night, I received a message from an unknown number. "Sophia, I know I don't deserve to ask anything of you. But can we meet? Just once. Please." I stared at the message for a long time, my thumb hovering over the screen. My chest didn't ache. My hands didn't tremble. There was no panic, no rush of old pain. Only silence. I blocked the number. Ryan was sitting on the couch, scrolling through files when he looked up. "Everything okay?" I smiled, walking over to sit beside him.
Yeah,
I said, curling into his side. Everything's finally okay. A month later, Ryan and I got married. It was a small ceremony. Sierra, my best friend and fiercest defender, was my only bridesmaid. I wore a custom silk gown, simple but flowing, without a trace of glitter. No tiara. No frills. Just a woman who had once been shattered, now walking whole and free. We didn't send invitations to anyone from my past. Not to Nathan. Not to my father, who had once taken Nathan's side during the public humiliation and said, "Maybe you were just too boring for a man like him." But as these things go, they came anyway. I saw them from the bridal suite balcony as I finished my makeup. My father's familiar stride, older now, less confident. Nathan a few steps behind him, in a crisp black suit, looking more like a shadow than a groom. Sierra's eyes flared when she spotted them. Want me to throw champagne in their faces? I smiled. No need. Ryan came to me soon after. They're here, he said gently. What do you want me to do? Send them away. He kissed my forehead. Done. They were escorted out without fuss. My father tried to protest. Nathan stood silently, watching the building, as if trying to see through walls, to reach across time. But there was nothing left to see. That afternoon, under a sky blooming with April sunlight, I married the man who had never made me wait, never made me beg, never made me feel small. When Ryan placed the ring on my finger, he leaned in and whispered in my ear, "Sophia, I love you. I'll protect you, admire you, and walk beside you, always." I looked up at him, tears shimmering. And I'll love you the way I should have been loved all along. The guests stood and clapped as we kissed, laughter echoing through the courtyard. Somewhere, far outside that garden, Nathan watched photos trickle through mutual friends' feeds, photos of a woman he no longer recognized, because this version of me had never belonged to him. I wasn't the broken fiancée waiting for a proposal. I was no longer the quiet woman begging for his attention. I was Sophia Anderson now. Months passed. Ryan and I built not just a life together, but a legacy. Our firm became one of the most sought after in the industry. We donated to shelters, launched mentorship programs for young women in business, and quietly created the kind of power Nathan had once only pretended to offer. Then one day, I heard the news: Nathan's company filed for bankruptcy. He had sold off the last of his assets. His apartment was on the market. He was reportedly living alone, out of the public eye, forgotten by the same circles that once worshipped him. I didn't gloat. I didn't smile. I just stood in my garden, gently trimming the branches of our crabapple tree, which had just begun to bloom. Soft pink blossoms swayed in the wind, delicate and resilient. Ryan walked up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist. "Spring suits you," he whispered. "I like this season now," I said quietly. Because this spring, I hadn't just grown, I had flourished. He left me for his assistant, thinking I'd break. But I bloomed elsewhere. I married the man he envied, took the life he thought was his, and never looked back. Some men lose good women and never recover. Some women lose toxic men and finally become everything they were meant to be.